We have investors that are just tired of waiting. They've been waiting through this whole, when we started 232 process 2 years ago, and it just drags on and on and on. We're getting hammered and with our share price, and we also need to send a clear message to the world of uranium mining and these nuclear fuel products, including the Russians, the Chinese, and the Kazakhs, that the United States of America is not going out of business in this area of the front end.
Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. Investors in the uranium space have been operating in a bit of a void, plus equity prices have been hit hard in 2019 and at the beginning of 2020. So we decided to speak to Mark Chalmers. He is the CEO of Energy Fuels. They're an operator in the US. Now, Mark has been walking the streets of Washington and talking to people up on the Hill. So if you want to find out what he found out, take a look in the description below. You can click on the relevant timestamp and that'll take you to that part of the video. And if I could ask that you click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, if you want to see more videos like this, please click the notification bell. Let's hear what Mark had to say. Hi Mark, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, Matt. How are you?
Good. Well, thanks for coming on the show again. I appreciate it. We're operating in a bit of a void here, and I suspect the whole industry is with regards to what is going on. I'm looking at share prices of most of the uranium players, North American, are hammered. They're being hammered in this void of no news. What do you know that we don't?
Well, I think that what we have is we have investors that are just tired of waiting. They've been waiting through this whole, when we started 232 process 2 years ago, and it just drags on and on and on. So, look, and I share the frustration of investors, but, just remember for every share sold is one purchased. Even though the price of these shares have gone down, and we've all been hammered, and not just the United States, but even a lot of the global equities in Canada have been hammered as well too. So, look, I certainly it doesn't make me feel good when I see these shares slipping. But as you know, our company and UR Energy, started this process again 2 years ago, but we're still making progress. We're still making great progress. I think that I think that the government gets it. I think they get it that we have to have a nuclear fuel cycle in the United States.
Why do you say that? Why do you say you're making great progress, or the government understands? On what basis are you saying that?
Well, I think that when when the tack changed from the 232 process, which was more of a trade-focused initiative, to national security when it comes to producing uranium and nuclear products, focused on the military's requirements, the government's requirements. We got rid of effectively all opposition that we know of when we made that shift. The utilities are not openly fighting us. We've got good support from NEI. We've had many meetings. I don't even want to count them up. Hundreds of meetings with people in the administration, people in Congress.
What are they telling you? You're meeting these important people in Congress up on the Hill. What are they saying?
I think that we've gone through a huge education process on how dependent we are for imports in the United States, and I think that when we talk to them, they are shocked at how dependent we become. The government inventories have been there for decades, but they're finite and they're diminishing. And, as long as we're the largest consumer in the world, is that where you want to be? And not have the capabilities to replace those inventories, because uranium and nuclear fuel products for the military has to be unobligated material by treaty. And so it basically has to be by treaty mined, converted, and enriched in the United States of America.
Okay, so you're educating a bunch of people up on the Hill, but do the people who matter, which is in this case Pompeo and Trump, do they understand the scale of the problem?
Look, I haven't met with Pompeo. I haven't met with Trump, but I believe they both understand the magnitude of the problem. I think the people that surrounding them understand the problem. I think they are understanding they need to make a decision quickly because of this imbalance of our ability to produce these very specialized products for the U.S. government.
Okay, but 12 months ago they had the same problem. Today it's more imperative. You know, if you look at the macro story. So what's been delaying things? And, you know, given the nature of some of the politics in America at the moment, we've got impeachment hearings going on, we've got Iran waivers being discussed, another 60-day extension. You know, is it possible to make a decision in that environment?
Look, we think so. I mean, it's certainly been harder to get to the top of the pile. You know, since the original working group, deliberations and report they prepared, it's been very hard. Every time we thought that, you know, we were closer, it kept getting delayed. Certainly with our discussions with people in Congress and those in administration, we say, look, we're out of time. We need to tell our shareholders, what the outcome is with this review. They need to understand, we're getting hammered and with our share price. And we also need to send a clear message to the world of uranium mining and these nuclear fuel products, including the Russians, the Chinese, and the Kazakhs, that the United States of America is not going out of business in this area of the front end.
Okay, I understand. So what are the options on the table now? I mean, we talked before Christmas. You said there's a bunch of options available to the government. We've been reading over here about government buying programs of U.S. Uranium. Have you had conversations? Or have you got a sense of what that could be? Is it just guesswork, or is it? What do you know?
Look, we're trying not to make it guesswork because we know that it's better for us to provide some guidance here. I mean, the first thing we want the government to come out and say that the government is supporting the reestablishment of the nuclear fuel cycle in the United States, mining, conversion, and enrichment at a level that at least provides some critical mass so that we have the capability to produce sort of our basic requirements, not all our products, but we can flex up if required. So the number one is we want to be able to show our shareholders, tell the world, or have the government tell the world the conclusions that they've made through both the working group and the Section 232 investigations. That's number one. Number two, we want to see, or we hope to see, immediate demand for uranium mining. Uranium mining is the most challenged first step of the process, and we would like to see the government starting to buy uranium now, like this year, 2020, and onwards, to make sure that the uranium miners can sell their product at fair prices, so that, we can get some cash flow reestablished. These companies that are not producing now, zero cash flow, it's not a real good outcome. That's not sustainable for a long period of time. And then lastly, the plan that they announce, we do realize that some of this, or a big chunk of this, is going to have to go through appropriations. The expensive part of the plan is really the enrichment. Uranium mining and conversion already have a lot of the infrastructure in place and are the lesser side of this reestablishing the fuel cycle. But when you start talking about building new enrichment plants, being able to make everything from 495, 235, all the way up to in the 90s, 235, that's going to start costing billions. Now, the government was already planning to reestablish enrichment in the early days, without looking at the uranium and the conversion steps.
Interesting. So if you, just to remind people, US, 20% of their energy is produced by nuclear fusion. there have been a few plants which have come to end of life, a few due to come to end of life. The utilities have got multiple options. They've got gas, they've got oil, they've got renewable. Nuclear is part of that. But for them to invest billions of dollars into upgrading or building new plants must be a big part of the conversation that they're having with government too. So the miners are just a small part of this, but it's got to be joined up thinking, surely.
Yeah, and I think that was a lot of the logic when the president came up with this working group. Now, granted, the working group's main focus was just these first three steps of the fuel cycle, but certainly the government is. The Trump administration is committed to keeping as many nuclear power plants operating, going forward for obvious reasons. I think that the government, like the DOD and DOE, are also getting increasingly optimistic about the micro reactors and the small modular reactors. This new HALEU fuel, which is 20% 235. Is also kind of becoming, a product that the government thinks that they will need for the SMRs, particularly, and then lastly, space travel. That's coming back onto the horizon. Now, that probably isn't a large consumer and takes some, time out. But again, I've said it to you many times. It is not time for the United States to not be in this business.
Mark, can I just ask you your view on this Iranian waiver issue at the moment? It's a real political hotbed. The Europeans don't want it. They don't want these waivers removed. I know there's a lot of discussion internally between Pompeo and Mnuchin. They're in slight disagreement about it. Is that just a big distraction for you? I guess it's got to be. But what do you do about it?
Look, I think it helps us because I think it shows how sensitive and interrelated, this fuel market is, outside of the United States. Even this morning I was hearing that Trump and Pompeo were wanting the waivers to go away. But they also said, and when I heard this on the radios, Fox News, that, the utilities, they don't want it to go away because they have such a dependency already on the former Soviet Union, the Russians, for, fueling their reactors. So it's all interconnected. So, people talk about we've got all these stockpiles, we've got all this uranium, we don't need it for another, 5 years, 10 years. So, obviously the business, it couldn't ever be healthy. I know that's not the case. But then when you start looking at if you remove or let these waivers expire, and it starts creating issues where the Russians cannot import into the United States or cut back on that, a lot of these utilities are going to start running out of fuel like within a year. And that should, again, shock people. What happened to all the inventories? Where are all those products? We thought we had, 5-10 years of those products available. We don't.
Well, I'm trying to work out, because there's so little data out there, is, how much inventory is available to US utilities today? What are they sitting on? A year, 2 years, 3 years? Because that makes a big impact on their behavior and their decision making, especially, they don't want high prices.
Yeah, look at the utilities, and look, I understand they want the lowest cost fuel, to keep nuclear as competitive as they can. We know that, that fuel is such a small percentage of nuclear generation, but nuclear generation is struggling. But there's uranium's in all these different shapes and forms, and so you got to make sure you keep those into balance with what your requirements are. I think that it just highlights the fact that the United States doesn't have the ability now. Urenco is foreign owned, and it's in New Mexico, and they can do enrichment there up to 495. But we do not have U.S. owned capacity for enrichment. We do have, U.S.-owned capacity for conversion, but that's shut down right now. I think it just highlights the fact that you do not want to be overly dependent on all these other countries, and you do not want to be in a position to have to fight with one or both of your arms tied behind your back with like the Iranians or whatever, and the relationships they have with the Russians.
Okay, I guess we'll leave it because we just don't have enough data on that at the moment. Not that we can get, but can I just talk about the mill, your mill, White Mesa? Okay, we talked about that previously, a few weeks ago. He who controls the mill controls the district kind of, line. We had a bit of feedback on that. So people are saying, well, hang on, the mill you've got, which you said it has a huge capacity, which you can't possibly fill. You said that yourself. The feedback was around, well, how old is this mill? How do you maintain this mill? What's the cost of keeping this thing going? Do you decommission it? Is it that, at what point do you decommission something like that? Or is it a case of you just replace the bits? It's ongoing maintenance, as you, start processing stuff through the plant, you just constantly upgrade, you maintain, etc. Is this mill set to run for years, or is it going to finish?
I think the mill was originally built to operate for like 20 years, and now it's been around for over 40 years.
Right. Okay.
There's been a couple campaigns of modernization, with control systems, automation. We've replaced a lot of the tankage. We built new tailing cells. There's been an evolution in technology over the years. So the mill, even though it's an older facility, is in very good, excellent condition, considering its age. So, it is unique, as we know. It's the only one that's operable, fully licensed, staffed right now, and has the vanadium circuit. And hey, just for you, vanadium's starting to get a little life in it. The price of vanadium's starting to go up. Now, granted, when it was $30, dropped to $5, and it's at $6. We never thought that would look good, but we're hoping that the price of vanadium continues to go up here this next year or two, and we can capitalize on a fairly substantial inventory of vanadium that we have at the mill. But no, it's in good shape. As I said, it's basically largely staffed. We did lay off a number of people in the last week or the week or so ago. We shut down the vanadium recovery process because of prices. But no, it's in very good shape and ready to go.
Okay, that interests me. So you've let some people, they were permanent staff or temporary staff, or
Yeah, most of the people we let go were temporary staff. When we have to spool up the mill, we try to keep the core group of full-time employees, and then we spool up with temporary people where possible. I mean, it's our ultimate objective, though, to offer as many full-time jobs as we can in the region.
Right. Well, let's see what happens. We've been reading, we're days away from some sort of decision, but we've heard that before a few times. So let's see what comes out of the Trump administration. I wish you well, you and your peers. Looks like you're all waiting for an announcement. So let us know if you hear anything first.
I can assure you, we'll let you know in the rest of the world. And we have put a lot of our skin and money and sweat. I think we've worn out. I don't know how many pairs of shoes I've worn out, walking the halls of Congress and in DC. But we're excited it's going to finally happen. And I know there's a naysayers it'll never happen or don't think it's going to happen. But I think we have done a fantastic job. When you look at a little company, because we've been doing most of the lifting, Energy Fuel's been doing most of the lifting as late. I mean, probably 75% of the lifting here. I think it's remarkable that we've gotten this thing elevated to where it is at this point in time.